much more beautiful adventure in the end. As you guys know, I originally started talking about this figure because of a calling that I felt to look into these mounds and explore. And I am an explorer, is what I like to think. Obviously, it's not my job. I have a full-time job, but yeah, exploring is what I like to do. And then if I get to share it with you guys, what I find, then that's perfect. That being said, we can talk about Red Horn and the girl in the white beaver skin, whose grandmother urges her to court Red Horn to be married. She doesn't want to, but at her grandmother's insistence, she goes and deals with all the bullying from the other girls that want to marry Red Horn, and in a roundabout way, I guess it works. She was going to gift him some things depending on the story of or the version of the story that you hear. The version I'm giving you, he goes to battle with presumably some monsters or giants, and he plays a prank on his people. And this is important because, he's a trickster. That is his personality to some extent. He has a sense of humor, and I like that. But the prank that he pulls is that he convinces everyone that he has died in battle. So in customary fashion, the girl in the white beaver skin goes home and her grandmother cuts her hair off because she had lost who she saw as her husband. So he comes back. All the ladies want him, obviously, because who he is. He's the Falcon Warrior. But he wants the girl in the white beaver skin rap. So he goes to her structure, her home, and they are married. After that happened, he bears a son with this woman. And after that happens, the story moves on so that he eventually comes across these giants. And I guess maybe he was feeling nice, wanted to challenge them to a game of stickball, or lacrosse is kind of what we would call it in modern times. And of course they win, but one of the ways that they win was that Red Horn, his ear faces, as we previously discussed, his anatomy, he has faces where his ears are, or should be. So they were talking trash or whatever, and they caught the attention of one of the giants on the other team, and it was a female. So in that way, he made, somehow in a roundabout way, this female his second wife. Well, interestingly enough, the giants were not having that. They, as you can imagine, were pretty upset by that, and he, at some point in between the lacrosse game and what would happen next, he bears a son with this giantess as well. So, they're unhappy. They challenge Red Horn and his crew, Thunderbird, Turtle, the same people we talked about before, to a wrestling match, and they lose. Our team loses, and the giants killed them all. I guess that was the terms of the match. Loser dies. So what happens? Red Horn's sons are obviously broke up about it. They get to an age, I guess, where there's a potential for them to fight back, and they decide they're going to go get their father's head, which had been severed and hung from a pole in the village of these giants. Well, they decide to do a little bit of homework first, and they arm themselves with knowledge and weapons. They learn songs that can enchant the giants from the underworld. They craft special arrows so that they can kill these guardians that guard the severed head of Red Horn, which means that they must have known that he could be resurrected. And resurrection is funny. It happens a lot in these stories all over the world, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So they do. The boys go. They learn the songs. They gather the weapons. They begin to sing the songs when they get to the village, and these giants just start jumping into the fire, is the story, and effectively killing themselves. And the ones that were left, they would shoot with arrows and beat them with their bows when they ran out of arrows. So it's a wild story, but to make a long story short, for the sake of this video not being 20 minutes long, they do resurrect. They take the head back to their village, and they resurrect their father and Thunderbird and Turtle, and that's basically the story. Where it goes from there depends on what you read and what account. But the reason why I say this video is going to be different is because of where we're going with this. And I'm going to read from my notes a little bit, so I apologize. So he's called the Birdman. I have this little mock Birdman tablet I got at Cahokia. I don't know if you can see it. On the back, it even has like the cross hatching that they put there, which I believe was meant to look like serpent scales. When they excavated Mound 72, I think it was 1967 or something like that, it painted a picture of this like warrior class dominated people, which gave rise to the narrative that of the SECC as like a death cult, which very well may have been. I'm not disputing that, but there was a quote that I found from the Illinois State Archaeological Survey from, let's see, Dr. Thomas Emerson, and it said symbolism on the pots and artifacts found there upon further investigation seem to be based on water and the underworld, which are very feminine aspects as opposed to the higher world, the light, the direct energy, the logos, whatever you want to call it, the divine masculine that kind of underlies a lot of world religions that were from that era. And so that's where I'm going with this. That's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to get into you guys' head a little bit, because that's what I've been studying, the theories of Atlantis and, Lemuria, or whatever you want to call this. There was definitely an old civilization. There was definitely an older version whose technology was not, it was more pure, I would consider it, because it didn't destroy the earth around it. It enhanced things. It enhanced life. It didn't just change it. But it was also used for different purposes, I believe. And that goes for all the pyramids. In the Emerald Tablets, for example, it talks about Thoth telling people to go, which were his people, presumably designed demigods, to go about and populate the earth and start their civilization all over it, since Atlantis had gone through its cataclysm. And whether you believe that or not, it's weird that there are so many lines of correlation. The Falcon Warrior, for example. The Falcon Warrior, it's always birds of prey, it seems like. You may look at Thoth and say, oh, well, that's an ibis. Yeah, it is, but think of who else Thoth is associated with, which is Horus, which is a falcon-headed deity. Freya of the Norse beliefs turns into a falcon to go to the underworld to gain wisdom. You know, these are protectors of humanity. Who do they need protection from? Who knows? Maybe it's the same people that are still trying to obfuscate the truth and control the narrative. But that's speculation. You know, I don't claim to be a historian, and I'm certainly not a researcher. Like I said before, I'm an explorer. But you look, I mean, you can even look at Quetzalcoatl. You can look at Hermes. They're all associated with stars. They're all associated with usually the same stars. They're called like the morning or the evening star, which was either Venus or Mercury, depending on what you believe. You could go to Jesus if you wanted to, and he's likened to a dove, which is not a bird of prey, but a bird nonetheless, certainly represented with it. And God in Deuteronomy is referred to as being like an eagle. So these are archetypes, right? And these are themes, motifs. And I get it. It's not necessarily literal, but it doesn't have to be literal, because everywhere you go on Earth, there seem to be the same thing. And you could say, oh, well, they had no contact with each other at no point in history. And that would even be weirder. That would suggest that there's some sort of subconscious link between people in general. So this is why I feel like I was called to this. It's brought me to this. And there's been so many synchronicities that I could tell you guys, and I will tell you guys. And I hope that you go back and check out the other videos about Red Horn if you haven't. You know, materialist science wants you to believe that there were no advanced civilizations, what they consider advanced, but that's just not correct. I enjoy exploration. I do. I enjoy exploration. I enjoy sharing, and I enjoy asking questions. And I try not to put my ego too much into it. And I always try to leave you guys with a positive message. Because although there are people that would obfuscate the truth, and that there are other people who would try to spin another narrative just to justify what they believed their entire lives. And that's not okay either, you know. I mean, it's okay in that, like, everyone has an opinion, and that's fantastic. We should all talk about our opinions, but we should also remain open-minded about things, given how little we know factually. But yeah, it's been great doing all this, and it's been great having you guys support me, and I really have appreciated it. And I want to chop it up with anybody who wants to have a respectful discourse. If you want to talk to me, be it the Mississippians, who are a conglomerate of dozens of cultures in themselves, and then all the way back to the Adena, and whatever was before that, because clearly there was something before that. You know, we're told one thing in this life, in this narrative, about the nature of reality around us. And I want you guys to know that there is absolutely some sort of power that is, that would have you believe you are less capable than you are. You are insanely powerful. You are insanely capable. You have the ability to create anything. And nobody's saying it's beautiful. I don't sit here to try to say that I'm enlightened for any reason. I don't know anything any more than anyone else, but I choose to acknowledge the potential of where it could go as far as good. And I hope you guys understand how much you're capable of. And there is no separate here. There's no separation between any of us. And just, you know, once you acknowledge that, and you realize that there are ties between us. I've seen them. You know, the webs between us that make up our reality. It's a lot weirder than people realize. So treat people like you would treat yourself. If you find yourself treating people like you would not treat yourself, throw those questions around in your mind and analyze that. If you find yourself responding out of fear or pride, as opposed to, you know, wanting to connect instead of sever, push into that positivity. And I don't mean that from a toxic positivity standpoint where you think just everything's okay and beautiful, because these realizations oftentimes are not all good. You know, there's a cost to wisdom. Wisdom is earned. I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you again with the next video, which should come out next week, but don't hold me to it. And if you do hold me to it, I'll probably feel anxious about it and try to get it done. So feel free to do that too, and message me and say, hurry the fuck up with that video. Ooh. Sorry for the language. Anyway, peace.